Hello, winners, and welcome to Two for the Win with your hosts, Nick and Will. We have a book review you're not going to want to miss. What book? Well, stay tuned. But before we jump into this book, please be sure to subscribe, share, and follow Two for Win on your favorite platform. We're on all of them, and want to give a shout out to nickmenard.com and the 1% Push, as well as his Amazon best-selling book, Mindset is My Degree, for sponsoring today's episode. Thank you, Nick Menard.
You're welcome. Hello, winners.
Let's go Monday. So the book we are going to talk about is one that if you have people who've been checking out on YouTube, you've seen it above my co-host's shoulder for this entire time. But it's called The Five Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. And this is a book I came across
long time ago.
Yeah, at least 12 years ago. And it's an interesting book because the first part is written in a narrative. So it's telling a story. And then the second half, it includes a workbook on how to practically apply it. So I thought it was a very unique way of doing it at that time. And anyway, has a lot of things to discuss. So any high level thoughts about the book before getting the quotes?
Yeah, so I read that book a long time ago. It was before moving to the US, so it was before 2013.
Okay.
So it's been a while, but just that a quick refresher. So I'm excited to talk about that because something we receive as feedback a lot in our professional life, business, even from the podcast, is people really like when we do series, when we talk about steps and from step 1 to step 3 to become an entrepreneur or to build your business or steps. So I think this book accommodate that very well because, like you mentioned, it's literally by phase within the book. So it's a narration first, and then it's like a step by step. So I'm excited for that. So we can talk about those 5 dysfunctions.
Yes, let's get into it. So before we start talking about the book, let's get to our favorite segment, Quotes and Quips. All right, the first one, I kind of cheated. I took a quote from the book.
Well,
so this quote is from Patrick Lencioni, and the quote is: "Teams that fear conflict waste lots of time and energy posturing and managing interpersonal risk. The meetings are boring because they ignore controversial topics critical to their success." Thoughts on that one?
My co-host tried to irritates me again. He talking about meeting. Seriously, are you talking about training? It's like the meetings for me is like an Allen Iverson with training. We don't really like that very much.
Practice.
No, but that's why most meetings are the way they are. They're just something. So many people think that who more you talk, who more you have things in your calendar, who better your production is. And it's usually the opposite. Mm-hmm. But people love to have a lot of meetings in their calendar. They complain about it, but they love it because if they don't have, they feel like they're not productive, which is not what they should focusing on. So very rarely you have actually productive meeting. So when you have a productive one, you need to analyze the why. And that's why this quote is very true because it's literally saying like so many meetings are irrelevant or could be done by sending an email instead and give time back to people so they can coach. So they can do something relevant. They can talk to their customers. They can bring more sales, and like all the things that actually are more valuable than to speak about something. Mm-hmm. So I love this, and I know you are great in making sure that your meeting are always relevant, and you make sure that the meeting they're very small and far in between, but they are relevant when we are in it. So I cannot wait to hear your way to actually do the perfect or great meetings.
Yeah, no, thanks. I think one of the trap, especially for very amiable leaders, is you can't please everyone, And I think one of the things I've been saying for quite a while now is you'll never please 100% of the people 100% of the time. So if you're having meetings and you're trying to limit debate, or you're just trying to get everyone to go along with something, even if they have maybe strong feelings, why not? And you try to appease them, you're not going to get productive output out of that. And it probably is a signal that the root cause isn't being addressed. Now, it could just be somebody's off center. right? And that needs to be an offline conversation. So I'm not saying they're always right when they serve something up like that. But generally, in my experience, when you get that kind of pushback, and if you're trying to avoid that pushback, then it's really avoiding the root problem. You're treating a symptom and not the thing. And the whole thing about the meeting, yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the pet peeves of mine is people having regular meetings where there's only one channel or one flow of communication. Like if I'm giving a meeting and it's to inform, now every once in a while, like a kickoff or something, sure, you're going to talk a lot in that meeting. But if I'm getting live meeting time, I want it interactive, because there's problems to solve or problems to surface and start talking solutions, right? And stuff like that. If it's a one-way communication, I use video because it's like, great, listen to it when you can, you get the information. But I think that's a lot of mistake people make is to your point, they get their feeling of importance and productivity by having a lot of meetings. But is that really driving productivity? I mean, you have to be unvarnished and look in the mirror about it and be like, is it really moving the needle? So, but anyway, okay. So good one there. Now remember on this quip, this is about a dysfunctional team. So I'm not advocating this quip, but it is funny. So the quip comes from, gosh, I got to get my reading glasses on. I don't know. It comes from a source. Pairs about puns. I don't know what that means. Okay. Anyway, thank you for this quip. But it goes, our team's favorite type of retreat, one where we get to retreat back home. Yeah, a little snarky. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So those are, it's a quip, it's funny, but look in the mirror, winners. And is this quip not relevant for majority of the meeting you're going through? And again, we have people listening from Europe, from Asia, from anywhere, anywhere in the world. So look in the mirror and think about this quip. Everybody are laughing, smiling right now. But didn't you experience that more than 50% of the time? The answer is probably yes. Even if you love your job. You may love your job but not love the politic. You may love your job but not love certain meetings. And it's totally normal. But unfortunately, it's relevant. So we laugh about it, but it's the case for most of the meetings that people are attending. So what do you want to do about it? Are you going to continue to complain about it like me? Again, I try to be very cautious about that when it comes to my team, the meeting I lead. Now, we always have people who are above us, unless it's your own business. That's why I like to build my own business. So you don't have 100% of the decision about meetings you attend or not. So, but try to be at least, to think about it when you schedule your next meeting. When it's your meeting, you are the owner. Do you really need to have that meeting? If yes, what information are you trying to get at the end of the meeting? Or what step do you try to achieve? Or by the end of the meeting, what decision do you want to have, made down? If it's a one-way, like Will mentioned, send an email, do a video. I love the fact that you do videos. If it's an update, send an email, do a video. Again, try to be intentional about the message you want to put, you want to pass. I think it's very different, meetings and coaching, because people listening to this and say, well, Nick, you have like meetings every week. Yes, but it's coaching. I don't call that meeting. It's a coaching session,
right? To
improve someone's day to day, to improve someone's numbers, to improve someone's mindset, to improve someone's something. It's a coaching session. A meeting is a place where you go and you talk about a topic. Is it necessary? And so the message here, please be cautious when you are the one owning the call of the why you're doing it, and is it another way to do it that may be more relevant and may allow time for people to actually do tasks that are more important for the business.
Oh yeah. And it's easier to discern if you're in person in the office, but if you're working in a virtual environment, just take a look at the camera sometimes. If people are multitasking, then they're not engaged, right? And you can blame them, right? Because there's a certain level of professionalism, but ultimately that's feedback. And it's like, okay, this isn't a very engaging topic if they're drifting off and doing other things or checking email and stuff. And so I do think you have to be unvarnished. And I think the funny thing about retreat back home, but that the opposite of a dysfunctional team is a highly collaborative team. And usually those teams, you can just tell the energy, the way they bounce off each other, sometimes even hang out outside of work, but that's a totally different thing. You don't need that in order to have a highly functional team, of course, but you look side by side and it's totally different vibes on that one. And I think, going back to the book now, so the book talks about a new leader. She's coming in, taking over an existing team, but she wasn't from within the team. Sometimes you take over a team that you were once a part of, or you could be leading a team. And if they have any one of these five, there's an element of dysfunction. So what are the 5 dysfunctions of a team, you may be asking? The first one, foundational, absence of trust. The second, fear of conflict. Third, lack of commitment. 4, avoidance of accountability. And 5, inattention to results. So as you hear those, if you reflect back on the existing team you're on, whether, again, you're an entrepreneur and you have some employees or contractors with you, or you're in a more established type of business or larger business, corporate, what I was trying to say. Do any one of those 5, you're like, ooh, yeah, maybe that's it, right? So let's start with the foundation. From most things like in life, whether the relationships, personal or professional, do you have trust? Is there an absence of trust? So that's the first area. And the definition, according to the book, team members aren't vulnerable. They hide weaknesses, mistakes, needs, and fears. We talked about this in the past, psychological safety, the impact, politics, guarded posture, and artificial harmony. Thoughts on that one, the absence of trust?
I couldn't agree more. That's why I love that this is in the foundation, because if you don't have that, you have absolutely nothing. And you cannot build anything without a strong foundation. And a strong foundation has to be the trust, because without trust, you cannot build anything. Mm-hmm. So the trust factor is so important. So in the book, that someone coming that has absolutely no relations with anyone in the team. Sometimes people ask me, what is the best for me to grow within my team and become the leader of the people I work with, or to go to something totally different? For me, there's not a right answer, because they're both different kind of leadership that you need to portray. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a lot more of learning by listening, by taking a step back in beginning to see the interaction within the team, who is actually the natural leader, what kind of feedback they receive, are they consistent, are they all different? Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of learning by listening. Mm-hmm. If you take over your own team, well, you probably know majority, and you need to learn probably more in deeper level about the individual, mm-hmm. and you can probably go faster into the coaching aspect, because you already know but sometimes it's also better to take a little bit of time to understand, because it's not the same function. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you have to build some kind of trust, and you will not be people will not trust you blindly immediately. It's gradually, but if you don't spend time actually building that trust, you lose from the start. Because if you do anything differently, if they don't have the trust, they're not going to approve anything that's coming, or they're going to do it because you are the boss, but not because it makes sense. So it's not intentional. And to have intention, you need to have trust. And so that's very important. And the second thing that I think is important, we talk a lot in our environment that the trust-based value add. So you need the trust base. It's literally say it's the base, right. But you value add. And something I always said, I had to do a presentation for a region recently about TBVA, trust-based value added. And I said something, if there's one thing to remember from a 15-minute presentation, trust gets you to the door, but value keeps you in the room. And if you understand that, you need to have a first step to get to the door. And that's actually the entry level of the pyramid here, or the 5, the 5 dysfunction of a team. So you need to get to the door first before you can provide any kind of value. But without trust, you don't have the value. But without value, you don't get anywhere neither. So it's a combination. So that would be my answer.
We should have had that quote as our quote. I like that. I like that. Trust gets you in the door, but value keeps you in the room. That's a good one. That's a really good one. According to the book, what trust looks like: admitting mistakes without fear, asking for help, giving honest feedback, owning weaknesses openly. What breaks trust? Leaders hiding flaws, blame culture, withholding information, competition over collaboration. So like you were saying, got to have that trust. You got to invest in the people. And if you say, hey, mistakes are learning experiences, and the first time somebody makes mistakes and you're like raking them over the coals, probably not going to be building trust.
Be vulnerable. Vulnerability attracts vulnerability.
Yeah.
And if you, it's the same thing as mission discovery that we mentioned multi-time during this podcast, where you need to learn about your people. It doesn't mean that you need to have all the personal detail of the person, but you know how to get more detail from the people you get to learn from by giving more detail about yourself.
Yeah, right.
So usually when I have a new introduction with someone that I'm going to work with, a partner, a peer, or I always start by saying like, well, before we start, let me introduce myself so we're not complete stranger. That's my line. And then I said what I want to share. And usually I said what I want to share because that's exactly the information I would like them to give to me. The people will be more open to share whatever you shared already. And that's a good first approach. So, you share 2-3 personal things. It doesn't need to be deep, but 2-3 personal things to understand a bit to people. Well, what do they like to do in their free time? What they're passionate about, because they're going to be the why. Start with why from Cynic again.
Right.
So it's very important to open the door yourself about what you want to share with them first, and then you will be surprised that the thing they're going to share is exactly what you shared. So that helps opening door about trust.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. Nailed that one. Really good. I'm going to read past this next one, although I'm going to read about it because I'd like to get your thoughts on the lack of commitment. But the second one, so if you look at it, they use the pyramid in the book. Foundation, absent of trust. The next layer, fear of conflict. And we kind of talked about this over recent episodes. But definition, the team avoids healthy debate. They choose harmony over honesty. The impact, you get bad decisions, slow decisions, artificial agreement. So what healthy conflict looks like: debating ideas, not attacking people, pushing back with respect, challenging assumptions, disagree and commit instead of passive aggressive behavior. Unhealthy avoidance looks like meetings after the meeting.
I didn't write the book.
Yeah, it does. Silence instead of debate, and leaders encouraging niceness over truth. So that's that one. Now let's get to lack of commitment. Forced clarity and closure. So definition, because no one debated openly, no one actually buys in. So you see this starts a cascading impact. People nod along, but don't believe. Impact, indecision, slow execution, relitigating decisions. Thought about commitment or lack of commitment as a dysfunction within the team.
Well, again, it's very similar. For me, the lack of commitment comes from trust. People don't believe what you said. They don't want to do what you said, or they not because that's the right thing to do with someone who is a leader or manager in front of you. It comes from a lack of trust. So that's something when you are in that level, third level in this case, and you feel like people are not buying in what you said, understand the why, but also, is it a problem with trust? Because I do believe that if trust is there, people tend to buy in a lot faster because they trust that you have their best interest in mind, that you have the best, intention in order to bring the best out of them, et cetera, et cetera. So if it's not, it's usually like a lack of trust. But the commitment, if you're not committing into something, you will never achieve anything.
That's right.
And so you need to, and the commitment is not the target, because it's something that I'm very, very picky about, the difference between target and goals. So as we know, we all, whatever business you are in, whatever company you are in, you have a target to achieve. All right. The target should not be your commitment. The commitment should be your goal. The goal should never be under the target. It doesn't have to be 10 points above the target, but it needs to be something that you intend to go to. And if you don't reach the moon, you reach the star. It's well known. The star should be above the target. And so I always like to to motivate and challenge the people I work with about put something that require effort but is achievable. And when you achieve, let's celebrate the hell out of it. Definitely for a big goal, like a yearly goal or something like that. And maintain whatever you said beginning of the year or end of the year for next year, whatever you want to do. But it's very important that the person commits to do something, and then accountability comes. And I think it's the next one. So it takes total sense. You commit and you hold yourself accountable, and all the people that will help you achieve accountable. So for me, the step 3 and 4, they're very together, because you cannot take them apart, because it's accountability comes with commitment. But if you have a person within your team, organization, business who are not committed, do not spend your energy and time with that person. It's easier said than done when you work with employees, because it needs to be done. But if you're in a business like mine in travel, when it's self-employed, they're not working for you. They own their own stuff. And I'm never mad at someone who said, I don't want to do anything this month, because that's their decision. It's not going to cost me anything, but I'm not going to spend time with that person, because my time is important. I prefer to put my time into people who commit.
Right.
So commitment for me is almost the foundation, because if you don't have the trust and you don't have the commitment, I don't spend time with you.
Right.
Why would I waste my time with someone who doesn't want to commit? And the problem is people who commit and give up super fast. Yeah. If you commit January 1st, and in March, you already think, I cannot achieve anymore, I don't want to hear it. We all have better months, better quarter than others. But if you, after the first quarter, you already give up because you're already too far behind, then you never commit. It's just a word. That means that you don't have the trust. Why you don't have the trust? And we start back from zero. So that's the way that I'm thinking about the lack of commitment.
No, spot on. I mean, these are all interrelated. So absolutely. So what does commitment look like? Clear decisions, even when not unanimous. Team members understanding the why. Deadlines and ownership are explicit. Symptoms of low commitment: vague direction, confusion about priorities, passive compliance, and endless reconsidering, where we debate things to death. It's like, sweet goodness. The accountability, since you went there, which made all the sense in the world, it tied it in. According to the book, avoidance of accountability: teammates won't call each other out for behavior or performance. You talked a lot about performance, which is the normal thing, but it's even sometimes behavior, where people sometimes undermine the group, not knowing they're undermining the group, but if they're constantly saying something negative, that could have it. Impact: mediocrity, underperformance, slipping standards. So you kind of touched on the accountability, but was there anything you wanted to dive in deeper on that part from when you were talking about commitment?
No, I just like when accountability is reciprocated. So accountability is both ways. And if you're a leader, you feel like, I don't need them to. Yes, you need them to know. I mean, I like to share with my teams all the time what I'm doing. So, example, last week I had a team meeting for my travel business, and I shared where I'm at in my goal for the year. And I shared what I'm doing this month, to get better, or what I'm gonna do to learn more. I always share sale is not to brag, is to showcase that it's possible, So I want to make sure that people know, okay, where we at. I always share the total number of the company, the agency number every month, because I want people to know how we grow. And if we grow, why? And if we don't grow, what needs to be done? So I want them to hold me accountable with this, but I want to be super transparent with them about what's done. And I of course share the wins of the team with everybody. And so, yeah. I mean, accountability for me is huge, but it's both ways. You're never too high to hold yourself accountable to anyone.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, that's great, and that's you're embodying the behavior you expect from people who align with you. Common avoidance patterns to accountability: not my job, and I would say the lower rungs of the ladder of accountability, which I know we talked about before. All right, the last, but certainly not least, inattention to results, the top dysfunction, not meaning the top.
The most important, but the top,
on the top of the pyramid, because again, all these things are kind of interrelated. The definition: the team prioritizes personal ego, career status, or department over collective success. I got a name we both know that just jumped into my head when I read that. The impact, fragmentation, poor performance, political silos. So inattention to results, focus on collective outcomes. Real quickly, results orientation look like a shared scoreboard, collective success, greater than individual credit, visibility of goals and metrics. Team wins celebrated more than personal wins. I know you believe in that. You just mentioned it, how you're doing it with your agency. How egos ruin it. Title chasing, protecting turf, department first mindset, quote unquote, busy instead of productive, which goes back to your meetings. So any thoughts on that one? You've kind of touched on a lot of these.
I want to give the word to you because I feel like you have a lot of great things here. Definitely about the job title, people who chase that. I know that you're not a believer in that neither, more in the action instead of the job title. So maybe you have something to share on that or something else.
Yeah, I think on that one, my pursuit to grow in my career, I'm not going to say it was altruistic only. Like I wanted to get paid more, of course, for what I did. But really what drove me was having a seat at the table for some of the strategic decisions that were being made. I've long held, you know this about me, felt very strongly about the principle of human leadership can drive high performance. If you create the right environment, it leads to performance. Take care of your people first. It'll lead to performance. But that's not the only way to be successful. And there's other ways to go about it. But for me, it wasn't to have the title for the title's sake. It was more where can I get that seat at the table so I can have a voice, right? And kind of voice of the people, if you will. And that's what really drove me. And so, for example, I was always focused on skills, like what skills can I hone? And so when I was a team manager, the next step for me was leading other leaders. And I wanted to lead a global organization so I could learn how to lead multicultural teams. And so that led me to a role that happened to include a higher title, but that wasn't my goal with the title. My goal was to be able to hone those skills. And it's been the case the whole time. I think the other thing in terms of the politics, and this is the one that I don't fault people for ambition. Ambition applied healthy can actually drive great results. But when you have people who are ambitious and political and the way they try to go about it is to undermine others, that I have a problem with. And that's the one where it erodes everything. And I even had this on a meeting last Friday. I'm on a big meeting talking about different things, and somebody else mentioned something, and then the one person who I thought of when I say it comes flying in and is like, well, since you're not doing anything on this, maybe replicate this. I'm like, wait. No, I just outlaid what I'm doing. And I'm like, just because I didn't have a pretty slide doesn't mean we don't have a process. But those sort of things goes back to the foundation. It erodes the trust. And I don't trust this person any further than I can throw them, although I think I could toss them pretty good. But I think, it's undermining. And then when they offer something, because they're smart, they're definitely smart. But when they offer something, I'm always like, instead of taking them for face value, I'm always trying to figure out what's the angle. And that's a waste of energy, right? But that's the kind of thing that's been fostered. So thankfully, they're not on my team because then it would be different kind of chat. And I've had the chat with the person and they just operate the way they operate. So I'm not here to save the world. I'm just trying to take care of people who are closest to me and aligned to me and the business that I support.
Totally with you, brother. I know. I'm very, yeah. And that's the thing. Who higher you go in any kind of organization, who more politics is involved and who less people care about what they should care and more about their own in order to grow. And I think that's a problem, but it's everywhere. Like when you go to big organization, it's always like that.
Oh yeah. And it becomes more about the story at times than about the meaningful work. And that I think is just one of those things where it's like, I'd rather just focus on meaningful work.
Exactly. And that's why you're successful.
Try. But for those of you who have not checked out Patrick Lencioni's Five Dysfunctions as a Team, highly recommend it. Very easy read, and very practical to apply. Made a big impact on me when I read it, and it's something that's always stuck in the back of my mind, especially as I change teams. And it's that red book there right next to yours. Mindset is my degree. There you go. See, it's been there the whole time. It's a good one, folks. Oh, Nick's pulling it out. So if you're on the YouTube, you're going to see the cover right here. There it is. 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. As you can see, not a huge book, but packed with great insight and an easy to read format and a unique format with the narrative plus the workbook. So any last closing thoughts before we wrap?
No, I think I love the fact that we talk about this book because it summarizes very well a lot of things that we talked about the last few months. And so hopefully it's something that you liked, winners. So give us a feedback and then we can go from there. Maybe we can do more of those.
Yeah, if you have a book you want us to review, we're happy to do it. But that'll do it for today, winners. So again, please be sure to subscribe, share, and follow for Two for the Win on your favorite platform. We're on all of them. Thanks again to nickmenard.com and his 1% Push and Amazon best-selling book, Mindset is My Degree. That'll wrap it up for this Monday Mindset Winners. We'll see you next week.
Bye, winners.